Thank you very much. I'm Bruce Gagliolo. I'm a senior architect with Covenant Technology Partners, and I'm going to talk to you about modern workplace, which, to some people, they won't really necessarily know what that means, so we're going to kind of talk a little bit about that. When we look at the workplace of today, it's rapidly changing, right? It's not what we used to before, what people were seeing before. We're not really in this cubicle world, all right? People are really moving around and needing to access their systems from a variety of different places. So there's more than 2 teams for every person. It used to be that you used to work in an office, okay, you stick yourself in a cube and you worked in your own little group and stuff like that, but that's not really the case anymore. We're a lot more agile today, all right, and people are joining more and more groups of people together and forming more and more teams, and they all have different needs and services through that process. We also figure that people want to work remote. I'm in a lot of client locations, and I'm hearing a lot of hoteling. People are not building up big buildings as much as anymore, is trying to conserve that space and allow people to be a lot more mobile and move around. How many people out here actually have mobile workforce and hotel capabilities and stuff? So you see, it's quite a few, all right? It's really a change and a shift in the world and the way that people are actually doing things. But we still need those users to be able to work in their systems the way that they need to and be very effective and be able to communicate and connect with their data and their people. That adds a lot of challenges to the IT structure, okay? It's a lot more challenges from the normal security side of things, so it's not all back in our brick and mortar. We have people that are remote, a lot more than just those salespeople that are traveling between offices or going out to see clients. It's really about that need to be able to control the data and be able to give the people the ability to support their services and do what they want to the way they need to. You couple that with the fact that we have a tremendous amount of data growth, all right? The largest growth in history of data has been happening. It's going to continue to grow over and over and over. We're generating a tremendous amount of data. So those folks that are working with a lot of on-premise systems are struggling with capacity of storage. So a lot of our clients are looking at hybrid needs, all right? How do we help store all of this data and control it? How do we manage that when our workforce is no longer in our brick and mortar building? They're actually out on the road, they're using different devices, all right? People are using more than one device, but yet they still have to get to this ever-growing amount of data and services that we have. Then security. This is where we couple. This is where we have a problem, all right? So when we look at the fact of our mobile force, we have them today, we need them. We've got a large amount of data, but now we put ourselves at risk, all right? Because we don't have that data in a controlled environment. At least we perceive that we don't, all right? So it's very important that when you look at your journey of your data and your services and the change of the way that the modern workplace works today, the security is paramount, that you invest time making sure that your platform is secure, no matter where your data is, no matter where your users are. How many people out here are running BitLocker and services like that on their devices in case they have a lost device? Pretty much most of the room, all right? That's great, but yet you have probably VPN connections and you may not have policies in place that lock systems down, and what if they're using their home computer and services? These are challenges that the security office have to deal with every day. You couple that with the increasing need for mobile users and a person that needs an iPad or they want to bring their own device for a cell phone connectivity, that adds to complexity. So we have to make sure that we keep things secure. When we look at all of those, what we have to do is we have to provide a trusted place that our people can collaborate. They need to trust that they can do what they need to. They have to be able to do that collaboration because they're on multiple teams. And we need to make sure that the system is intelligent enough and intuitive enough that they're not actually stumbling and thrusting. So if I open up a Word document on my desktop computer, I want to be able to open that up also on my iPad because I may need to author against that. And I want to be able to do it without having to retrain my staff. Right? So you have to have all of these components to be successful. Mobility being the driver that's causing us to have this. So Microsoft's created a phenomenal list of products and services, and pretty much everybody in here has probably seen or used them at various different places. How many people are using Office 365 today? Pretty much the whole room. But what you're probably struggling with, okay, I suspect you are because I've probably talked to most of you guys, is the fact that the pinwheel keeps growing. Every other day we hear about a new product come out, a new system that comes out, a new tool that comes out. What do I do with all of these different products across Office 365. Now we have Microsoft 365. We have enterprise mobility plus security. What does that do for these systems? We couple Azure into this, and there's 400 different products in the Azure stack. That's a lot of tools. All right? And your job is to make business run smoothly, solve business struggles and challenges by the use of these tools and technologies. That's where the struggle becomes in your world. There's too much coming at you too fast. You're focused on your business and solving the business struggles, but your tool bag keeps growing. So when we look at this pinwheel over the last 12 months, we've had a significant growth in products. Anybody out here using Microsoft Teams? It's a great tool. I was with a client just the other day that was saying, I think I want to use Teams, but I don't want to have my users have the ability to create SharePoint sites. So, well, wait a second here. Teams is built on a platform that uses a lot of different technologies. SharePoint is one of them, right? So you have to understand where's the best place and the best way to use these various different tools. This is where your partnership should come into play, right? Where you really should think about who you're partnering with and who you're working with. Who is your Microsoft representation? Who can help explain what all these different products and services are and where the business value is? Why should I be using Skype over Teams, okay? And what's happening with Skype? I'm hearing the buzz about Skype client going away. What does that mean to me as an organization? Does that mean that a product I just deployed, I'm gonna have to redeploy? Those are questions that you should be asking yourself as you look at it, but you need to have a trusted partner that's gonna help you understand that. Anybody work with Power Apps? Not a lot of people in here. Got an interesting solution that we developed for a client right now using Power Apps. They have 1 million documents that are primarily stored in Salesforce today, all right, and on file shares, and on SharePoint. They're all over the place. They've lost control over them. They need the ability to be able to interact with those files and make sure that they have the files that they need and the documents that they need regardless of where they're at. So if I'm in Salesforce and I upload a file, my users in my SharePoint system don't have access to it. We're using Power Apps to bridge a lot of that connectivity, okay, and write the functionality so if they upload a document within Salesforce, it actually gets stored in SharePoint. And then it gets tagged properly with the metadata that's coming out of Salesforce. So everybody's working from the same document. Salespeople who live in Salesforce love it because they just update their documents and stuff. They have easy access to them. Back office people love it because now they have the same documents and it's controlled and it's actually properly tagged, okay, so that they actually know what account this is for. Compliance likes it because now the document's protected, all right? It's actually controlled by the rights management of the solution and stuff. So we bridge that technology by using several different products and services. Before, it would take them 10 minutes to manipulate through a document that they can get in 10 seconds now. So it's a really big win. But had they not had somebody to help them to figure out some of the tools in this, it might have been a little bit more struggling. They may have taken a different approach to it. So these changes to the different products and services that are on this wheel is really what you have to understand and where the business value is. Why should I use Yammer? What does Yammer do for my organization? Should I allow it? What happens with Form? Should I be using Forms or should I be using some other service other than Forms? There's a lot of different functionality. And what I generally run into with organizations is I have documents, I have files that need to be stored. I've got several places. I have SharePoint, I got my file share, I have OneDrive, I've got Teams. Okay, where do I store all this data and where does it best fit? So we help those clients understand what that journey is to the cloud. We talk to you about your business problems and solutions and what you're trying to accomplish, okay, with them. What's your short and long-term goals? Then we look at this and we educate you on what the products do. All right, and where they can solve some business challenges, and that way you can make sound business decisions from educated point of view, as opposed to, this sounds like the latest buzzword, it's the latest thing on the market, should I actually be using that or not? One of the things I wanted to talk briefly about is this transformation that Microsoft is doing with Skype. All right, we've heard, or should have probably heard or read something out there that Microsoft is getting rid of the Skype client. Skype's going away. It's not really going away, and the client's not going away anytime soon. What they're doing is they're incorporating all that voice functionality, those meeting capabilities of having that video conferencing, that audio conferencing into the Teams client. Well, what good is that for me for an organization? Well, it should reduce the number of clients that your users are using. Today, most people are using Outlook for most of their collaboration services, all right? email, their calendar support, maybe connectivity dynamics, maybe even to some SharePoint libraries within the system. They're using SharePoint for that. But they're using Skype, they're using OneDrive, they're using other things, Planner, and that other functionality for a lot of those team type things, but using too many different products. The Teams product itself, they're moving the audio and video to, and they're going to put real-time transcription on the audio and near real-time on the video. So when you're having your team meetings, you don't have to worry about where your documents are, you don't have to worry about where my notes are from the last meeting or anything. They're all aggregated together for you, all right? And you can go back to that last audio meeting or last video meeting, whether it be a status update or whatever it is, and search for all of that content for you, regardless of whether it's audio, video, or documents. The Skype client will still be around. It's going to be a lighter weight version of that messaging client, of that inter-office meetings, external meetings and stuff. But when you work with your collective teams of people, okay, it'll be a more self-service design around that functionality using that agent. Anybody done anything or seen the My Analytics? This is a neat little tool. I like this one. My Analytics is kind of nice. It's an automated tool that you can enable within the system, and it really helps you to understand where you're spending your time. So if you're like most people I know in the IT industry, we're really busy people. But where do we spend most of our time? How long does it take us to get back to certain individuals? Are we being responsive enough to our president, okay, or to our team members and stuff? The My Analytics uses a lot of background computing power to look at your habits, okay, and show you where you can improve them, okay, as well as show you where you're spending your time in services. This feature can be enabled for anybody that's in the enterprise stack, okay, so you can push it down to any of your end users. Light education around it. It's actually a really valuable tool to help them understand how they're communicating and collaborating with their colleagues and team members. They can really get a better insight of what's happening. Any questions specifically about any of the products within the whole stack of suites and stuff? Give you a little background. I'm a partner seller for Microsoft over this stack, which is the Office 365, which has been expanded to be Microsoft 365. Enterprise Mobility plus Security, and Azure. Now that means that I have a Microsoft badge, I'm just not a paid employee, okay, and I help answer a lot of these questions, technical and business related and stuff, around this suite of products and services. So I'm a pretty good resource for knowing a lot about what's going on here. Yes, sir?
Staff Hub.
Excuse me?
Staff Hub.
Yeah, Staff Hub is designed for that frontline worker community, okay? It's a new suite of products. Microsoft noticed there was a gap. If you've got shop floor workers, or you're in the restaurant industry, or that industry that have people that aren't those informational workers, but they have to have access to technology and services and stuff, they created this suite called F1. And the Staff Hub is part of that piece, okay, that helps that staff collect together and communicate. There's also, should be on the pinwheel, I'm finding it here. Well, it's part of the to-do tasks, okay, but there's another one called Scheduler that's not up there, okay, that's part of the frontline worker also. It's kind of a calendaring program that's really designed for schedule management for that frontline worker services. It's not as popular. You get over into the left side of the wheel and we get into more of the background services like project and dynamics we've talked about before. The programming side of things, which is the Power Apps, and then we have the business intelligence, okay, the Power BI. One thing that is kind of a neat thing here though is Flow. Anybody use Flow? Yeah, Flow's pretty neat. It's a self-service workflow process. I personally use it against our dynamic system. I want to know when one of our sales managers changes an opportunity percentage to, like, say, 80%, because if it's at 80%, that means we're supposed to have a statement of work in the client's hands. So I have a flow process runs. Every time somebody changes one of those opportunities to 80%, I get an email notification, because now I know that I've got to get a team member engaged to help that client manager actually get some contracts out the door. What we do to help people with this, okay, and I encourage you to connect with the Covenant, to talk with them about a roadmap, talk with them about planning. How do I get my organization to do a digital transformation? How do I adopt to this new modern workplace, okay? There's too many products and systems out here for me to do it yourself. You'd be spending all of your time studying about what they can do for you rather than leveraging the partners that are in the business to understand where that's at. They can come in and quickly understand where the services are. Yes, sir. Yeah, so this in the case, this was a client that had various different communications methods that they were using, and for their conference bridging services and most of their communication, they were using another product, a non-Microsoft product. Okay, they were a Microsoft business partner. This other company was called Global Meet. Anybody used Global Meet before? Yeah, not a bad product. Used it myself, had it myself, but it was cumbersome to work with and everything. So we did an initiative, we switched everybody over to Skype for Business, absolutely loved it. As a matter of fact, they heard that the pilot was going on and people were saying, can I get on that pilot? How do I get into it? Then we deployed the PSTN conferencing, the audio bridge services for this. So they no longer had to use Global Meet whatsoever at all. Not only did it save the company a significant amount of money because cost-wise is considerably difference between Global Meet and Skype, all right, they found that their services were significantly better. All right, so cost savings, the user adoption ran rapid. Okay, they actually did not have to train their staff. The people were just clamoring to get onto it. And now their Skype meeting conference numbers all bridge into their system. They're an international company. One of the challenges that they're faced with was what countries had bridge numbers, okay? What we found is that Skype had more local numbers than any of the other providers. They hit all the countries that they needed to with local numbers. That gave them the ability to have those bridge numbers into those conferences without people having to call long distance or cross countries. It's a great tool. I don't see it used as leverage as I think it should. We're a virtualized company, but we hardly ever do a video conference. All right? I'd love to see clients really start looking at some of the other capabilities what Skype can do around video services. It's a great tool for that instant communication that goes all the way up into a multi-point meeting. Anybody use the large meeting functionality or are familiar with the large meeting functionality of Skype? Have you heard about that? It's great. If you have to have a one-to-many presentation, all right, and people here have probably all heard about GoToMeeting or GoToWebinar, you can do that same service with Skype, but it's not really advertised too much, okay? It does exist. You can have well over 20,000 people in that same meeting. All right, and it does all the recording for you and everything and the playback that are part of it. It's a great way if you've got an annual meeting or a biannual meeting that you're doing to your employees, okay, and you want to be able to hold that meeting, have people attend it. The people that can't attend it, they can get a video, they can get the recording of that. It's a great tool for it. It comes with Skype. People don't necessarily know that it's there, but it does come with Skype. Any other questions? You can get every one of them on the enterprise agreement. Everyone that's on this wheel is primarily made up of a SKU called E5, okay, Enterprise 5. There are a few that are outside of that, like Project is not part of that, it's a separate piece, but that can all be part on your enterprise agreement, all right? So you can pick these up either on what is called the open market. You're just going to Microsoft's site and clicking on it saying, I want to purchase, and you just start it through your portal. Your enterprise agreement for your 3-year contracts. MPSA for those people that don't want to go that long, or we are a cloud solution provider as well. It means we can provide all of those services on a month-to-month basis, having flexibility rather than long-term contracts. Yep, nope, you can have it. Visio Online or Visio, the desktop product, can be purchased through the 365 SKU stack, okay? And it can be added into those services. The rest of it, what we find is that most people have a lot of these services because they just came out. They bought into Microsoft's cloud, they bought some Office 365 for email, and with that, because of pricing, they got all these other products, but they didn't know what they did. They don't know what they do, okay? Why would I want to use those? That's where we come in, we can sit down with you and talk to you about what are these different things? Where's their business value? There may not be for your organization. You may have no reason to use Sway. Okay, I'd love to know if anybody in here is actually using Sway. Using Sway in the very back. Okay, yeah. Most people don't even know what Sway is. Okay, it's a marketing tool. It's good for making marketing presentations and stuff, but very, very few people use it. But it comes with a lot of different products and services. I was with a client yesterday that their concern is security. They have a lot of products that lit up for them, all right, and they didn't go in and turn off a lot of the services when they first set this up, so they're concerned that they may have rogue IT, people really going out there starting to use some of the functionality that IT wasn't familiar with, okay, that IT wasn't ready for, because they didn't do a good governance plan. They didn't take the time up front to make sure that they had secured and locked down the system so they can do a slower roll as business needs to the different tools. What you don't want to do is just turn on all the tools and just let everybody have fun out there. That's great, but you lose control over it, okay? And then you'll end up with documents and processes using too many different tools that aren't necessarily effective. And you lose user adoption because it won't be effective for them. They're going to run into some struggles and hurdles because you didn't do it in a controlled manner. But you have a lot of that power and a lot of that functionality there to you. It's just a matter of knowing when to use it and if to use it. Just because you have it doesn't mean you need to use it. Suites are great. Bundled packages are great because it costs less and you get more functionality. But that doesn't mean you have to deploy everything. There are components that may not fit well within your mix or where there's overlap. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Is Dell still part of the program?
Delve is.
Are they starting to take that out?
Nope, Delve is a great tool. Analytics around the data that you have, okay, it looks at all the different sources of content and stuff that you have and leverages it and surfaces it. Uses a lot of idle computing power that Microsoft has in their data centers to produce that.
Well, it's caused us a lot of problems with our GDPR.
Okay.
Because it goes out there and finds things that we don't want it to find.
Well, it's all based on security. So in this case here, you probably have a security problem. People have access to content that they should not have access to. So in circumstances like that, what you need to do is be looking at the security footprint and making sure that your security is in place. Delve won't surface anything that a user doesn't have authority to access. So it's no different than, say, SharePoint Search, okay? If I have access to the content, it'll display in SharePoint Search. If my security is in place, I don't even know it ever existed. All right, so that becomes a security concern. So I'm disappointed that you're having it, okay, but at least it's identified that you have a risk there that you need to identify, that you need to take care of and mitigate. Well, it's a really good question. The short answer is the product is limited, okay. The longer answer is there's a roadmap to extend that so you'll be able to extend it to other systems to be able to pull that analytical stuff in. But it's not designed to replace, say, Power BI and do the analytical processing against that data. That's not what it's designed to. They will be extending that platform and even through code to be able to extend it to be able to reach into other systems. Currently today, it's designed around the general functionality of documents and email, primarily focusing on email. It grew out of the email platform, okay, from that analytical perspective. So the short answer is you can't, okay. Long answer is it is on the roadmap to extend into that. I spent a lot of time at Ignite last October with, or was it September? I think it was September, with the Skype people, mainly around what was happening with Teams. You know, a lot of the people I spoke with on the product group there said that Microsoft really didn't know what they were doing when they bought Skype. They didn't realize the impact of it. They bought the world's largest phone company, and the paperwork they had to deal with and the legal things from all of these countries was immense. Calling plans was a big challenge, okay, in determining what the rates were going to be in all these various different countries. They do have an initiative to go through and clean up that and improve that process and be very competitive. Their goal is to be very competitive in that marketplace. Frankly, what they've done, from what I've learned and talking with them and stuff, is they took what Skype had and just absorbed their plans. They could not take on the analysis of determining what was going on with that rate structure at the time of also incorporating that technology into theirs. So now that it's been fully baked into their technology, speaking for them, but okay, I think they will be spending more time making sure that those rates are very competitive. There's basically two major rate plans for Skype. You got domestic and international. All right, domestic is like $12 a user per month. International is like $24. All right, and it's kind of an unlimited, but not really unlimited plan, meaning that depending on where you're calling, there's actually call rates that tack onto that, and it gets very confusing. Okay, and if you got enough time and enough Excel power, you can actually figure out where some of that comes into. But it is definitely a struggle. I can tell you this: that they don't want to be the most expensive person on the block. They probably won't be the cheapest either, but they will be very competitive in that particular market space. Keep in mind, just like when you bought your Office product back in the 80s, you could buy Word, Excel, and PowerPoint individually, or you could buy a suite they called Office. Okay, you could do the same thing in the cloud. You can buy these packages like an E3 or an E5, which are just enterprise class packages, or you can buy the components individually, and you can uplift some of those components. So in your particular circumstance, there was a SKU, don't know if it's quite there anymore, depending on when you did it, that could have uplifted just the Skype component to be able to allow you to put the PSTN conferencing on it. And then instead of buying E5, which had Power BI and several other things that you didn't necessarily have to have, okay, you could just add that voice services that you needed onto your plan. That would have meant that you were only paying for the services that you need. And that's really where it comes in important, okay? The power of the cloud is to purchase and use the services that you need at the time that you need. Azure is a great platform, okay, love it. There's 400 major products in Azure. There is 5 ways that I can store a database in Azure. Which is the best way for me? Well, it depends on the product, depends on the needs, depends on the services. The more we can have a service provider like Microsoft do work for us, the less expensive it is for us as a consumer of their product. It's kind of odd, but that's how it works, because they can leverage that across more clients and be more efficient with the tools that they have. So it's a matter of knowing what it is. So when you're looking at those services, and I'm looking at, say, I want to buy E1 because most of my people don't need Office. I buy my Office through another method, or they don't need the desktop product Office, but yet I want to have litigation hold for my email for everybody. You can take the Exchange component and add a bump up SKU onto that, which will give you all the functionality from an email platform that the E3 has. Any other questions? Thank you very much for your time.